Right, interesting. Yeah, I was having a look just the other day at Robert Nozick's philosophical explanations from, now it's 40 years old. And I was reminded, I just want to see the full context of the idea that, we want these kind of, we talk about these knockout arguments and just overpowering people. We use these coercive metaphors to describe philosophical engagement. And I wondered what you thought about that, because Nozick's obviously calling attention to that, I think partly critically, that made me think when I read it more about, well, what was your philosophical environment like at Harvard when you were there? It was probably pretty brutal from the sounds of it, and, so his alternative is to think about what we really want to do is engage in philosophical explanations rather than philosophical arguments that push people down a path. Is that your view, or do you think we just need a broader conception of argumentation that appeals to more than some narrow notion of reason that pulls people over or grabs people, that persuades them?
Yeah, no, I really resonate with those kinds of comments. I mean, my undergraduate training in philosophy, I used to joke that it was, philosophy as a combat sport in the early days. And I remember actually being quite turned off with philosophy of mind. So, so there we were, you and I both were doing philosophy of mind at roughly the same time. And it's something that actually drew me to the history of philosophy, was that philosophy of mind was just getting to be very combative and very competitive, and it wasn't producing good outcomes. It was rather, in fact, polarizing the field, and I thought was actually impeding new ideas from having a room on the table, getting published, and so on. And I like the fact that in the history of philosophy, there was much more sort of openness and acceptance of different, ways of thinking philosophically. And I think a lot has changed. I think that the classrooms that I'm seeing nowadays are much more open than they were even in the days when I changed. And I think that's a good thing, because in terms of training people philosophically, the most important thing is giving people that experience and that practice of occupying different perspectives. I mean, I think for a long time, philosophy kind of lost the importance and the centrality of the principle of charity in philosophical thinking. Without the principle of charity, we're more likely to engage in straw man reasoning, to think, to accuse our opponents of holding views they don't really hold, and to not really exercise those charitable ways of thinking. So I think the most important thing in philosophy classrooms, whether it be in school or at university level, is to just keep that sense that these issues have been around for a long time. There's always more to be said. As Richard Rorty said, there's always room for words other than last words. And I think that's another important thing we need to keep in mind as educators. And that the important thing at the end of the day is just being able to get students inducted into the dialectic of philosophy, the give and take of reasons, rather than actually pushing any particular agenda on a given issue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.